Welcome back for the second segment of the March 11th Trips and Traps. Once again, I'm Andy Serling, and we're going to go through a few more races from last week at Aqueduct, and we're going to go right back to Saturday's card, Saturday's big card, and we're going to start out with the 7th race, and this was the first leg of the late pick 4, and this was a maiden race for 2-year-old New York breds. Watch the start, and you can see right away that 2 horses are dramatically affected by the start. One of them is number 3, Roaring Ghost, who just breaks a little bit slowly, a first-time starter. The other one is another first-time starter. This was a Rick Dutrow first-time starter, and he was affected much more by the start. But also watch how quickly this horse, Jet's Tradition, rushes up and gets himself in position. And ultimately, I think this was the difference between the finishes of these 2 horses, because Roaring Ghost will finish second in this race and will finish over 8 lengths ahead of Jet's Tradition. Now, I'm not saying Jet's Tradition would have made up that difference, because he wouldn't have. However, breaking slowly and then rushing up, even though he's rushed up into perfect position, is not that easy thing to do, because this is a horse who clearly had a lot of speed. Imagine where he would have been if he hadn't gotten left. Now, of course, Roaring Ghost has settled towards the back of the pack, and he's getting a much more patient ride. He's moving up a little bit here, but he's moving up comfortably on the inside, and he is behind Jet's Tradition. Jet's Tradition is sitting in that very comfortable pocket, but the way he got there is the difference. If he had just broken cleanly and sitting in this pocket and had run fourth, I would have said good luck to him in the future. But I don't think that's the case. Now, you'll watch Roaring Ghost angle to the outside here and get that clear run. Besides breaking slowly, he gets an absolutely perfect trip, unless you want to say the rider moved a little soon. Not quite the same for Jet's Tradition, who doesn't really get to the outside, but ultimately he doesn't have the finish. Now, the winner of this race, take nothing away from him, Bankers Buy, a first-time starter, made a move from basically dead last in this race to win the race. This was a Shug McGay first-time starters, and first-time starters ran 1, 2, 3, 4 in this race. Roaring Ghost ran well. What I thought was actually really interesting was that Roaring Ghost was 15-1. And Jet's Tradition was 13-1. But Jet's Tradition was a Rick Dutrow first-time starter that could have been one of the favorites in this race. Thought he was pretty dead in the board. And Roaring Ghost was a first-time starter for Seth Menzel that cost $7,000 a yearling. Seth Menzel, I think, has only won with 1 first-time starter since he went out on his own. This horse could have been any price. If you want to say the one that was more live at the window, it would have been the second-place finisher. Now, with some professionalism and a cleaner break, he's probably going to win his next star, the one after that, because he is a pretty good New York-bred 3-year-old, as is the winner of this race. But I think that Jet's Tradition, I keep getting them mixed up, is one you want to watch for in the future, because he breaks cleanly next time and gets to the front end. He's going to show a lot of improvement, and he'll be a better price having lost this race by over 8 lengths. Now let's go ahead one more race, and we'll go to our 8th race, the co-feature on Saturday, the Boggin Stakes. And this is an interesting race. Day obviously won this race, but I want to look at the one Driven by Success in here. Driven by Success has the rail and breaks about a half length slowly, and he rushes up to the lead. And he looks like he's going very comfortably, has a lot of speed, and this was the favorite, and he was getting a real class test, having been impressive beating lessers. But right in here, you see him being pushed along very hard, and 3 wide in this race also is Grand Champion. A horse coming off a layoff, had missed a couple of starts and a question mark, and I wonder if he was just keen off the layoff because he got involved in the torrid pace I never thought he would have, as did West Coast Flyer, who's between horses, who was really racing against much tougher horses, but he too is in the worst part of the duel, except Driven by Success is never comfortable here, and you never see Rajiv Mirage riding a horse as aggressively as he's riding this horse, and it just seems to me that Driven by Success cannot keep up here, and I think realistically, you might think he's going to finish last here. It looks like he's backing up. He's not happy. The speed is collapsing. Grand Champion is taking his toll on him. And Driven by Success is backing up here, a favorite to be last. But that is not the case, because as you're going to see, he actually angles to the outside, and he passes some horses and loses this race by only 3.5 lengths. Lucky Island, the 5, is looking like a winner here. He doesn't even get by a 44-1 shot who finishes 3rd in this race, St. Damon, with an absolutely perfect trip. Lucky Diamond, for my money, will never win another race. Day takes the ultimate advantage of the collapsing race to win, and also Eternal Star ran 2nd. The dynamics were all for the closers in this race, but Driven by Success, there he is, still running at the end, a horse that looked like he had absolutely packed it in top of the stretch. I believe that Driven by Success was very unhappy being inside. And I still think he's a good horse. And next stake that we run in, if he has a real chance, if you can throw this race out, basically, and if he gets more of an outside post, he's able to stalk the leaders or else get clear on the lead. Driven by Success is going to run back to those fast races he ran in the past, and he will be a force to be reckoned with in the future, and certainly at a better price. Now we're going to go to the next day. We're going to go to Sunday, and this is March 8th. And we're going to go to the 7th race, and we're going to look at the horse that eventually wins this race, the 2, Alonso. Now, first you'll want to note, you had slight stumble at the start by both the 4 in this race and the 6, but both of them end up setting a very slow pace, while Alonso, as we see here, ends up sitting reasonably off this extremely slow pace. Now, the horse in front in this race was the favorite in here, and that's Forever Dancing. And Forever Dancing will never get a better situation than he got in this race. Take the Bluff, on the other hand, stalks him in the slow pace. Now, he has pace dynamics in his favor. I still think Take the Bluff is a horse that does his best running on the front end and ultimately does his best running on wet tracks. But now you've got Alonso, who's gapped out a good 5 or 6 lengths behind the leader at a very, very slow pace. They're absolutely crawling along here. And make note that Take the Bluff, who's sitting second, finishes second. Forever Dancing finishes third in this race. Alonso will end up winning quite easily. Between horses here, still being rated and extremely confidently ridden by Rosie Napravnik. Now, Alonso is a horse that sort of burst on the scene at Gulfstream last winter with a big allowance race win after a maiden win at Monmouth early in his 2-year-old year, and there was a lot of hype for him. He didn't live up to it. Now, we're going to show you Alonso between horses here because in about 5 seconds or so, you're going to see him steady back even further. And this is when he's making a move, a premature move, but into this very slow pace. Alonso was over-aggressively campaigned last year, and that's probably what led to his less than stellar efforts. But now he's been switched to Todd Pletcher, who's taking a more patient move. And there he is steadying back there. And he's about 2-3 wide. It's not a severe steady, but considering the slow pace and the dynamics of the race, he still finds himself 3 to 4 lengths out on the turn. And they've gone 50 to the half, 114 and 3 to the 3/4. They came home in this race 28 and a half seconds, and he made up in the last 5/16, a good 3 lengths. This is a very fast close. He splits horses, the horse gets in the clear, and he just positively runs by the field and wins easily. Now, he didn't beat Killers, but they're not bad considering the field. And the way he won this race is far more impressive than the way it looks on paper. Alonso's a horse, if given a chance to develop and not rushed into one impossible spot after another, could very well have a very good year in 2009. Now, he may step into stakes company next time. We'll see what happens. It's not like the older handicap horses have any killers. I think Alonso is going to make his presence felt this year, and this race is a lot better than it looks on paper. That does it for this week's Trips and Traps. I want to thank everybody for bearing with me, being alone. Eric should be back next week. Once again, that email address, tripsandtraps@NYRAinc.com. Love to hear your comments. Try to respond if we can. Love to hear what races you want to see us, races you're interested in, anything you want to talk about. We appreciate your watching, and we'll see you next week.